just in case the Street decides to push in at this point. And here comes the push. Striker is going to group his Mutalisks with an Overlord to stack them, and you can see from the bottom left-hand corner of your screen that he is using hold position micro, and that's very important during Muta harass, because it's you're going to be able to attack with mutas without having them lose momentum. It's kind of like the Vulture P micro. Mutalisks actually have considerable range, but it never looks that way because the attacking AI, the script AI, is very dumb for Mutalisks. They can only attack units that they're directly flying into. They can't attack anything behind them, and the deceleration for Mutalisk is just insane. And so once those if those mutas stop at any point, they're going to get picked off by marine fire very quickly. And so you see a lot of pro players are when they just have idling mutas, they keep them moving, and that's just because you can tell from this screen how slow those Mutalisks are when they stop. And so he's using the hold position micro right now to keep those Mutalisks moving on latency. So he was able to deal with that marine group pretty well, just with superior Muta micro, and he's heading off to the Street's natural right now in hopes that he hasn't been able to get too much defense up there. And good timing on Striker's part. The turrets are just coming up, and I think the Street doesn't have a marine count high enough to fend off this harass. Striker is just going to pick off these Marines and SCVs one by one. He has eight mutas, just enough to one-hit those SCVs. And you can see that he's taking advantage of using that ledge. Those Marines aren't going to get accurate fire, and here all the SCVs are going to come down. And that's huge for Striker at this point. He definitely has a strategical advantage now. And it looks like during this harass he is getting ready in the 11 o'clock position to drop his third base there, and those mutas are taking quite some hits there. But so apparently Striker he looks like he's investing more in mutas at this point, and that's unconventional in standard 3-hash muta. Usually players will save 9 larvae, get the 9 mutas, and then move directly into lurker tech. But this is a unique situation in that the Terran player forced an early cheese and is behind on the marine count at this point. I think that additional Mutalisk harass is going to be extremely effective. You can see that the Street is just constantly moving his Marines between his natural and his main just to hold off that Muta harass. And so at this point, I think it's not critical that the lurker timing comes at when it should be. In a standard game, when the lurker timing comes, the Terran player will have science vessels up, and so you can see that in this harass coming in, that Striker is bringing in Scourge along with his mutas, and the reason for that are actually twofold. The most important reason is that he will be able to snipe science vessels, which Irradiate is just going to be devastating to Mutalisks when they're grouped like that. The other not so obvious reason is that the Scourge are going to be able to take some fire, to take some marine fire, divert that away from the Mutalisks, and that's just a minor detail. So Striker is doing a great job keeping his Mutalisks active, keeping them stacked the way they are. You can see that the Street is just retreating his Marines, and that Striker is just picking off the lone Marines on the ends there. That's the best thing that a Zerg player can hope for in this phase, that those Marines are just separated and not defended by medics. And so Striker is at 58 out of 60, and he just upgraded +1. That is his only evolution chamber right now. he will be getting an additional evolution chamber soon to research +1 on melee. And again, the Striker is not very heavily invested right now in lurkers, and I don't think he will be throughout the game. The Muta harass is really taking him very far, and he's just going to use those lurkers to follow up before a Hive Tech and Defiler Ultraling. And so he has a valid reason not to get +1 missile at this point. Although all Zerg players are going to want to hit those Marines. Again, the Street doesn't have a Marine count high enough that the Striker needs to be worrying about that. You can see that the Science Vessel is out, and that Irradiate is just gonna force those Mutas back. At this point, the Mutas lists are not going to be able to do much more damage on the harass, and the Striker is forced to transition into Lurker Ling. And so his mineral count is low. That Overlord will go down. More Overlords were just fine, so that was very good timing for a Striker. And the Street still has that proxy barrack that we just proxy factory that we just scouted, and it probably would have done him some good if he just built maybe 1 or 2 more vultures from that fact and scouted at the 11 o'clock position. You can see that Striker doesn't have defense up yet, and that third gas is just going to be critical to deciding the outcome of this match. So Striker is doing a good job with his Scourge. I think a lot of Zerg players neglect the Scourge when they move to Lurkerling, and in any matchup, Scourge are critical. Especially in ZVT, they're gonna snipe the Science Vessels, which I think is the bane to Zerg ZVT. Those Science Vessels really can turn the game around if you're not if they're not defended properly. And in ZVP, your Scourge are going to be sniping observers, and so you're going to try to hold that contain with them. In ZVZ, in mid-level matches, the Scourge usually come first before the Mutalisks in order to take down any Overlords, so that you can supply cap your opponent before he's able to build his Mutalisks. So more on the game now. We see that Striker is standing 3 bases to the Street's 2, and I think the Street is still on 1 gas at this point. The end of game results show that Striker mines 30,000 minerals. The Street mines 21,000 minerals. But check out this gas stat. Striker mines 15,000 gas, whereas the Street only mines around 5,000 gas. So that's a 3-fold resource advantage there for Striker. And when Zerg gets on 4 gas and Terran stays on 1, then the Terran player can't possibly hope to win, especially knowing that he's up against a C+ player here. So I think maybe just out of nervousness, or the Street just forgot to take his second gas. I think originally it might have been up, and during that Muta harass it came down, but I think the Street just forgot about that. That would probably explain why throughout the game you're not going to see a very high Science Vessel count in standardly in SK Terran. The Terran player is gonna have a control group of maybe 12 or 15 Science Vessels. That's the only solution that the Terran player is going to have when the Zerg decides to push in with Crackling, Ultra, and Defiler. And so it might be good at this point if the Street incorporated a couple of Fire Bats into his army, because that Hive Tech is down, and those Defilers are going to be coming out pretty soon. And I think at this point, the only 2 relevant units in the game for Terran are those 2 Science Vessels that he's holding on to. Once those Swarm comes in, all of his other units are not going to be able to deal any damage whatsoever.